This meeting is being held remotely as an alternative means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting are being recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting laws. If any participant wishes to record this meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, subparagraph 20F, so the chair may inform all participants of said recording. And as you heard, the meeting is being recorded. So we have quite a busy night compared to our last meeting. We have a continuance on 151 Levitt Street. And for that, we have the voting members are myself, Catherine Daly, Justin Aborn, and I don't see...
Eric's here.
I see Eric. Eric's the fourth, but I do not...
Carol.
I do not see Carol, so...
There's Carol.
Carol Piles.
Oh, wait, no, that isn't Carol.
That's Catherine.
No, she's
That's
not.
So, all right, just to clarify, the voting members are continued from the last meeting. So they are myself, Justin Aborn, Eric Szyminski, and Catherine Daly. We'll have 4 voting members on that item. The next agenda item is 55 North Street. The voting members for that will be myself, Carol, Eric, Justin, and Josh. Would you be the alternate member to fill in on that?
Sure.
Thank you. The next item after that is 54 Middle Street. And I believe we have a conflict for this one.
Yes, please. I'm gonna conflict out.
Okay. So that item is voting members for that, with Justin being conflicted, is myself, Eric, Catherine, and alternate members will be Josh and Steve Sadler for that item. And then the last item will be 224 South Street. Voting members for that will be myself, Eric, Justin, Carol, and Josh, appointed as an alternate member. So just to confirm, we have one, I know of one conflict that we discussed already for 54 Middle Street. Are there any other conflicts of interest I need to be aware of? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll go to the first agenda item.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Did we talk about 34 Main Street is on the agenda?
Yes, that was, I'm sorry, did I skip over? I did.
I think so. And by the way, I think it's for a property at 181 North.
Yes, sorry, you're right. I did skip over that one. The last agenda item, thank you, Justin, is it's actually our third agenda item. I missed it. It is 181 North Street. It's the Hingham Historical Society located at 34 Main Street. Confused me in the agenda item too. Voting members for that would be Justin, myself, Eric, Carol, and Josh. Great. All right, so first agenda item is a continuance from 118 Mr. and Mrs. Farrell at 151 Levitt Street for a recently completed stone wall at the front of the property, including returns of the wall into the driveway, light fixtures, and directional lighting installed along the driveway. So we're doing this is for a certificate of appropriateness. So just to summarize the last meeting, I think that I'm sorry, 2 meetings ago, when we met with the Farrells, I think the feedback the commission gave at that time was that we felt like the massing as the wall turned into the driveway was a little too pronounced. The materials were acceptable. The lighting, current lighting scheme may not be completely appropriate. So that was the feedback that we gave to the Farrells. And I know that Mr. Patch is with the Farrells tonight. So that's where we left off. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Patch, and we'll hear your comments.
Can you hear me now? Okay, all right. Good evening. I'm Attorney Thomas Patch. I'm here with Sean and Carol Farrell, and basically I've had an opportunity to review the video, it's on YouTube, the video of the meeting on the 14th. And I would concur with the chair as accurately summarizing, I think, the feedback. One thing I do want to note as an administrative thing, we, just like Justin, we had a problem linking in other than by putting the passcode and the meeting ID in, and it was the link that got us in. So I just giving you guys an administrative heads up. I don't know what the issue was there, but
Okay,
happened was, and I apologize, I had to ask for a continuance from the and so I appreciate the willingness to give us the extension. But so what we did since then, we tried to come up with ways to address the concerns. So the first thing that Sean did was, I think the day after the meeting in the 14th, was to disconnect the lighting in the wall that faces Lozelle Street. And I know the neighbor across the street had an objection to that. One of the other things he did was, as to the lighting in the yard, he turned the lighting around so that it faces back towards his own house. And I believe that was the gist of the neighbors across the street. In other words, the lighting was coming in his direction. And so to address that, it was just, that was a simple solution. So looking at the returns from the street piers or pillars to the interior pillars, I think Sean didn't have an opportunity last time to articulate to the board what his reasoning was in the way of the design of the wall. And what he was trying to do is he was trying to maintain essentially the reveal portion between where the wall intersects with the pier or the pillar.
Hey, Andrea, we have the wrong number.
oh, okay, hang on.
And then the top of the wall. So he was trying to basically maintain it around 18, 19 inches so that when you looked at, if your eye was directed to that space, it would be consistent all the way around. Part of the problem is that when you're on uneven terrain, you're trying to get from one point to another. So if you're trying to maintain a fixed point here, and you're on uneven terrain and different heights, the problem is, of course, now you're going to have a slope to your wall. And that's essentially what happened. And because of the short distance between the front pillars and the interior pillars, the slope is more pronounced than it would be, for example, if the driveway pillars were set further back. We've talked to some people. There's different approaches, and we understand that what the board's mission is and can appreciate it. I do want to point out one thing, that by way of, we did some pretty significant research to look around town to see the existence of walls with pillars and returns and so forth. And there's actually quite a few of them, some within this particular district, some within other historic districts, some outside of districts. And basically it's an element of it's basically more of an element of a formal wall. I think the commission recognizes that walls built after the Civil War were more formal in nature than walls previous to that. Walls previous to that were in New England were primarily designed to provide demarcation for property lines, and they were essentially what they call waste walls, where they would just pick up a rock and just drop it down and in their boundary line. So they didn't really have any kind of additional, I don't know if the word ornate is the word, because that was their function. Property lines. After the Civil War, you started to see walls being constructed as a design element with properties. And you see this again within the district. And one that kind of comes to mind within the district is at 30 Winter Street, and essentially a house built in the late 1800s and has, it's similar to this property situation. It's much closer to the street, but it does have a rock, I assume it's not just a veneer foundation. It has a rock chimney, and that's the same kind of rock that was used on the wall that abuts the sidewalk and then goes up into the driveway with the returns. So there is precedent for this as a historical element within the district. But there's also another example, I believe, that falls outside the district, but I think address based on my reading of town meeting, and the whole purpose of extending this district was to create a little, to try to capture a little bit of the agricultural aesthetic, and that would be the entrance to the Ware River Farm. And so if you look at the entrance to the Ware River Farm, you have very long walls abutting East Street, and then turning in to the entrance of the Ware River and going to pillars with a slight radius up to on what essentially would be the returns up to the pillar. Some kind of it's an obelisk or something up top on each one, but again, that was a more of an architectural element from the late 1800s. So, and we said, okay, what would we could try to change the grade on the interior pillars, and by increasing the grade, it would diminish the.
I'm sorry, is anyone else having trouble hearing Mr. Patch? There are some
I
outages.
thought it might be me, but yeah, every once in a while you're cutting up, Mr. Patch.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know what to suggest.
It's the internet. I'm sorry. So,
Okay.
sorry. Can you hear me? You hear me
Yep, now I may just jump in when we lose you, just so you know.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I was just saying, so the simplest way.
Yeah, we lost you at simplest way.
Okay, it would be to alter the grade, right? No?
So
Should I call him?
you want to try turning off your video and see if that comes through clear?
You know what? I'm going to do.
Worth a try.
I'm gonna call in too. So is there a way?
Yep, we can wait.
Okay.
If he calls, we're gonna have a reverberation.
I don't know.
We'll
Why
have
is
to
this-
mute the video feed.
Andrea, can you make me co-host, please?
So should I stop the video? Just is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I thought I did
Let's
that.
just try
Apparently
stopping
I
the
didn't.
video. Maybe that saves enough bits to let the sound come.
Okay, let me see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. So trying to do this in the simplest way would be to try to alter the grade where the return comes in. And by way of example, and I think Justin can somewhat relate to this, where you grew up, Justin, down on the OSHA.
Yes, there's a lot of grade there.
When the return, you can't see me, but I'm giving you the thumbs up there. So when the returns, because on your side, the returns are a little bit set back from the and the grade goes up. And so basically it kind of masks, if the grade wasn't going up there, the pillar and the wall, the sort of the return would look higher than what it is because of the grade hides some of that height. Okay. So there's an example of that. So that would be the simplest solution, is try to increase the grade along the wall with the return so that it diminishes the height of the wall and reduces the pronounced effect of the curvature or the slope as it goes up to the interior pillars. So that would be the simplest way, and obviously would be the preferred way. to do it, because I think the commission can appreciate the other options involve extensive, intrusion into the wall itself to try to accomplish this. So I guess the first thing we would ask the commission is whether or not that's something that they would be, inclined if we came back with a specific proposal showing exactly what we were going to do. Is that something that the commission would be amenable to, or should we just try to move on to another possible solution that's going to be a little bit more intrusive?
If you're not opposed, I wouldn't mind hearing both options, and then that
Oh,
way.
hi, I'm sorry. You
What's
can't get.
happening?
Andrea, can you
Well,
mute yourself, please?
oh,
Thank you. Mr. Patch, if you're not opposed, I wouldn't mind hearing both, and then that way we can just go around more orderly and give you feedback on both
Gotcha.
options.
Yep, that no problem. So the second solution to actually go in and lower the both ramps in, have it come off more of a distance flat, and then once it gets very close to the pier, ramp up, and that way you would again still maintain that 18-inch or so, 9-inch reveal that was be consistent. And Mr. Chair, by way of example, you used to live on Ferring Road, and a couple of houses down, that sits way down in the back. There's the house that's way down in the back. I think it's like 2 houses down. They essentially in the. Can you hear me? I know
what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, and essentially they have, again, this aesthetic. In other words, what happens is you have 2 piers. It's made. They have 2 piers. It comes up. It flattens out. The return sort of flattens out and then takes a sharp rise up, and then kind of actually flattens out again, and to meet the pillar. So of trying to resolve it, and then the worst case scenario would be basically just flattening everything out, and in which case then you would have a very extensive reveal of the return to the interior pillars that would, again, now you would not have that consistency of the reveal among the wall and the pillars as a package. So that was the thought process there. And okay, go ahead, sorry. I'm not
You're
here.
muted, Dan, if you're talking.
There it goes.
I just want to circle back on a few of the things that you mentioned.
Okay.
Just to provide full context, because I wanted to share my screen for everybody's benefit. So kind of going in backwards or reverse order. This is what you were talking about at Ferring Road. Just I want everybody to see the same picture that you have. So what Mr. Patch is saying is that the wall would mimic this kind of approach where it would get lower and then kind of swoop up and step up right before it gets to the pillars. And then so you'd maintain this height, this little piece here would stay the same. There'd be a little extension, a swoop down, and then it would flatten out a little bit this way. Generally speaking, is that correct?
Yes, that's that option. I mean, again, it's not necessarily the.
Yep. I just want to paint a picture for everybody to get the full option. So, all right. So that was one thing. I was trying to visualize 30 Winter Street, and I couldn't picture the example that you had from there. And
I didn't mean 30 Winter Street. I'm sorry. I meant 30 Street. I apologize.
30 what?
My bad.
What is it? 30 what?
Spring Street.
Oh, Spring.
Sorry.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we all have the same context. Of course, we can't see that one though. So
30 Spring Street in Hingham?
Yeah, you can't drop the little person at that location, but let me see if we can.
Oh, I mean, I have it. Let me see. Let me see. It's my.
Yeah, there's no street view.
I can reduce this. Yeah.
might have one more option to get in.
Yeah, is that, yeah, that looks like it's the house. I have a picture that I took. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Okay. No, is it possible to share a screen with me, even though I'm not showing you, or is it now? Something we can do? Guess you have to make me a co-host temporarily to do that. Is that how that's
No,
done?
we can let you share. I'm just curious if this will show it here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I went to Bing and Bing has a
Oh, Bing
stream.
has it?
It's not the highest resolution, but one exists.
Okay, there we go. Probably similar to what this is, but we can see how there's a rock wall here that
I could
curves in.
also, oops, I could also,
Yeah, if you want to try, if you have a photo, if you want to try sharing, you
Yeah.
should be able to share your screen.
okay. Hold on, let me do that.
I will also drop the Bing link in the chat. Is there a chat? Is there no chat on the Zoom?
Nope, but I'll jump to Bing and look it up.
And just for, while we're waiting to clarify option one, that was basically banking soil up along the wall to reduce the visual impact. Is that what option one was?
Correct. Option one is kind of doing an embankment against the wall. Option three was doing kind of a stepped sloped swoop up to it. And then option two, remind me, Mr. Patch.
Well, so basically there's changing the number two would be the stepped up basis essentially. I should say two would be the getting very close to it and then swooping up to that point. Step three would be doing it in like steps like you showed on that property. And then the fourth one would be the most intrusive, which would be having to bring down wall its entirety and bring it down to be totally level. And that way you would end up having a reveal that doesn't, on both interior pillars with the return part of the wall, that doesn't match the return on the wall.
And was there an option to just lower the columns nearest the street? Or either of the sets of columns?
Columns nearest the street?
the
Well,
columns.
those, is this Justin? I'm sorry, I can't see.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It's just,
Oh, you
because they basically, that doesn't really kind of happen work because again, this is about trying to maintain that reveal and the wall itself. To do that, you would have to drop the height of use a little extent.
Okay.
I need this email. Do I have to send it to you as an attachment?
I did find a picture we
as a
have on the
PDF
screen now.
attachment or
So this
something like that?
This is 30 Spring Street.
Yes,
this-
for 30
this is
Spring
one
Street.
you referenced. So I just wanted to make sure everybody saw these. So this is 30 Winter Street, 30
Oh.
Spring Street that you referenced.
Spring Street, I'm sorry, I keep saying
Yep.
the wrong.
With the curved rock wall. So just context for everybody. And then I did pull up, this is the Weir River Farm entrance. And so just
No,
that-
that is, there you go, right.
so
Is
that
that an historic district?
Excuse me?
Is that in a historic district?
Nope, it's unstable, the connection's unstable.
I'm gonna stop sharing, so it's not putting
Okay.
extra strain on your connection, but
Where River,
just so the board members could see that. And then I
Where
will,
River Farm is not in it's not in the district, but again, it's part of, essentially, it's, this property is, it's at the base of Turkey Hill. It's just on basically the southeast side of Turkey Hill and the Farrell's property, and Ware River Farms more on the north side of Turkey Hill. And basically it reflects that sort of agricultural aesthetic. So that's the reason why I was offering it. I'm not saying it's because it's in the district, but I'm just giving an example that neighborhood that goes to that aesthetic, essentially.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Patrick, is that what you have for presentation at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we jump into commission members, are there any citizens that are on the call that wish to provide feedback or comment? Just through the list. I think it is. I think most of the people on here are next applicants, so I don't hear any. So if there are any citizens that wish to speak, feel free to chime in and any, I'll ask one more time at the end in case there's something. Okay, so I'm gonna break this into two things. One, the lighting. I want to just touch on that real quick because I think there's pretty quick consensus on that. Sounds like the lighting has been disabled in the wall. Lighting for landscaping has been reoriented and minimized. So I just want to go around the room. Justin, do you have any feedback or comments on that?
Mr. Chair, can I just, I'm sorry, Justin, I apologize. Can I just interject?
Please, please. Go ahead.
The light interior pillars illuminating the driveway are gonna stay just as illuminating the driveway, but they look, again, they look straight down. If you look at, for example, the First Parish house has essentially on the downtown side of it, essentially has little side lights in their wall as well.
So just to make sure that we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
Oops. The lights being too far.
Nope, it's not that pillar.
There we go. So the lights, are they in this face? Are they on the back face? I just want, or is it?
Okay, so the interior, I don't know if I'm seeing your full screen. There you go. Okay, so if you look at it,
like these
interior pillars, there's lights on the very hidden underneath underneath the cap. Okay. Or screens, their little sort of screen was put on them so that the force what are they, 1.5 volt?
Yeah,
Sean, they're 1.5 LEDs, right?
Yeah. Low voltage.
Low voltage.
So is it, I see two in this,
There.
one facing the road and then one facing the driveway. Do they both stay or just one?
He would like both of them to stay, but
Okay.
you know,
I'm just gonna mark this in red. So it's these two little lights on the tall pillar that shines down on the driveway would stay.
yes, on
Other lighting
both
would-
pillars.
Everything else is
Oh,
disconnected.
Yeah, all the rest of them have been disconnected.
Okay, all right, so there's our clarity for that. So all but the two lights on the pillar facing the road, facing the inward side of the driveway have been disconnected, and the landscaping light has been more uplit and back towards the house. Justin, do you have any comments?
I would say I'm grateful for those other lights being disconnected. I would not have voted to approve a certificate that included fixtures built into the stone like that. It seems very unhistoric, even if they're not turned on. Like,
Losing you.
so, and the lights that are disconnected, do the fixtures remain visible in the stone?
Is that a question you can answer, Mr. Patrick?
That is, that's a
They're so
question.
small, Justin, that you'd literally have to be from the street. You're not. They're so de minimis and blend in with the wall. You're not going to see them. You really have to be right up on top of it and
They're less than a half an inch.
yeah, and put
diameter.
put yourself into it to see it.
Right, but
The reason why you see
that may be, but they will they will be there is the answer to the question which I appreciate. And,
Yeah, but there's no
trying to
one.
decide how to,
The
think
only,
about
the only reason I appreciate it, Justin, the only reason why is, I guess, the disconnect out is you'd have to lift the cap off, and they're all cement, those are all cemented in. So
it. Mhm.
again, not trying to debate you on it. I'm just trying to, hopefully.
No, I
you know,
appreciate
mitigate.
the detail of what you're contending with. Thank you.
Any other comments, Justin?
Uh,
Related
the-
to lighting.
And we don't have a proposal related to lighting. No, not
Okay.
related to lighting. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, do you have any comments on the lighting as proposed?
I don't think so. I think that was my biggest hesitation on the wall. The wall form itself, I was less concerned on the lights, so I appreciate them addressing that item. That certainly helps alleviate some of the concern for me.
Catherine, do you have any comments?
I don't have any comments other than what was already said. I wonder if disconnecting all the lighting was an option.
I'm sorry, is that what kind of lighting? I apologize.
Disconnect lighting, is that an option that you're willing to discuss?
I'm sorry, you every time just it cuts out.
If all the lighting can be disconnected was the question, if that was a consideration.
Well, it's like a guide to, so anybody
Sorry,
coming
we
in at
lost-
night.
we lost
So we
you.
lost
You know,
Mr.
they
Patchford.
essentially see what
For-
they're looking at. And again, in fairness, I can 100% understand the commission's concerns. But I do think in fairness that if you go around the districts, this is something that's more common than not, and might be like de minimis. And I'm not trying to, I just think it's sort of when something becomes somewhat customary, widespread customary, it's kind of an indication that generally, people don't have a problem with it. And I would hope the commission could understand that point.
I agree that it is customary in locations throughout Hingham, but it is not prevalent in the historic districts that I'm familiar with.
Okay.
But I don't have any more comments than that.
Josh, do you have any comments on the lights?
I had asked in a previous meeting about whether or not the applicant could limit his use of the lights to certain, times, days, and I was told that we cannot get into the business of regulating usage. And so my question would become, if we cannot regulate usage, then is it acceptable for the fixtures to remain and simply not be used? Or would the fixtures, need to be, fully removed so that we're not simply regulating their use? Just a question to ponder.
Yeah, I had a similar thought, Josh, about that but where I come down to it is if they've been disconnected, and the wiring to them removed or back to the feed that they came from, I assume is what Mr. Farrell did. If that's the case, it's really no different than what stops somebody from attaching a solar light on their rock wall in the district. So I kind of see both sides of it. It's, if reconnected at a later date by Mr. Farrell or another future homeowner, I think it would be documented in the certificate of appropriateness that they're not to be illuminated. And I think that's where that lands, but I don't know if Andrea has a similar thought on that or feels differently.
No, I think that's what you said is, I agree with that.
Okay. Carol, I know you joined us late, just so you know, obviously you can comment, but you're not a voting member on this one, just to make sure everybody's aware. You're on mute though.
And Mr. Chair, the one thing I do want to point out is that that picture that you have there, the reason why the lights, Sean had put like the screen over the top of them.
Yep.
The brown screen to, again, direct the light downward.
Understood. Yep.
They're gone, then again,
You're not gonna see them.
you're not going to for all practical purposes from the street, you're not going to really see them.
I'd be curious though, what the end result of the brown screening, does it make the lights look bigger than they would? Or
No, it was designed to direct the lighting down to trying to not have the lighting illuminate out. So for example, if you go by a lot of houses, house on each side of this property, you have standalone on top, that, typical thing that people use to illuminate their driveway. And so this is I think a very trying to do something like that, which exists on both sides of this property, and as well as throughout the districts and really throughout the town. Rather than doing this, we consider this as which would throw a tremendous amount of light. Those lights throw a tremendous amount of light. These are 1.5 volt LEDs. Essentially, again, I'm talking about removing the screens on the ones on the other pillars, not the two large pillars. Basically, but the purpose of the ones that are going to remain on the large pillars is again to direct the lighting down, so that it's for the purpose, and someone going by is not going to literally be seeing a light bulb like they do on these standalone poles, these lights on top of these standalone poles that districts, all the districts, it's very common, and throughout the town, and again on each side of the property.
Just to confirm one thing, because Mr. Farrell, I believe this is the spec that you submitted for
Yes.
us. You had installed this, but you had added an additional, I think, bent piece of like aluminum trim over the top of it.
Yeah, just to get the
Yeah.
any glare from the light, just to make sure it goes to the ground.
Yeah. So the
Just trying to
picture
keep-
what was shown in the picture is probably double the size of what's the actual picture. So when that's aluminum trim piece is removed, you're left with this thin.
You're just left with that little brown part you see on top there.
Yeah, and this is just, Mr. Chair, this is in lieu of, like, for example, on the 30 Winter Street property. I don't know if it shows it in the picture you have, but it shows in a picture. They have, essentially standalone lights sitting on top of their, I don't think you can, it's not there, but is it in that picture? They had, I was just by there yesterday and took a picture. They have currently standalone lights on top of their piers. And again, and I'm not criticizing or judging that. It's the idea that it's trying to, similar to a runway, where basically you're basically trying to provide some guidance for people when they're coming into your driveway, and you don't want to, obviously don't want to have an accident. Even the abutter across the street, who's concerned about the lighting, and we 100% understand that. He himself has a very small little solar, one of those plastic solar lights that you jam into the ground. He has one of those right at the corner of his driveway. Excuse me, I'm sorry, and Levitt Street, and I'm sure, for the purpose of, essentially providing a guiding point for going into his driveway. There is also, I think the commission should know that there is, excuse me, a little further up the street, a telephone pole that is illuminated, but it's not, has a street light on it, but it's further up. It's not really in the area of the entrance to the driveway itself. So it's not as if there was a telephone pole with a light right next to the driveway, which sometimes people have, that would do away with the need to, to have any kind of lighting like that.
I would just say it's a little difficult to compare homes outside the districts with what we're dealing with here. each district has its own flavor. This happens to be a very agricultural district. It was little farm homes with modest little farm homes with, potentially there was, agriculture going on behind them. And, the home on Spring Street and the one on Winter Street, those are more formal settings. They're in town locations. So I'm not sure we can really compare those two walls as, being in the district, when each district, definitely has its own distinct, qualities that we're trying to.
Streetscape.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So to pick up on that, I think the last comments I have related to lighting, and thank you, Catherine, you're right. I was going to make a comment that we do take applications on their merits. The board is an evolution of itself, right? And we try to avoid saying this was approved. Like we try to take these on case by case basis, given their surroundings, where they're at within the district, what district they are. So I always try not to rest on examples, but they are still valuable touch points. So
I mean, that's even why the commission exists, is because it's a difficult challenge.
So the only comments I have on the lighting are that I can appreciate the lighting needing some wayfinding, some safety. I can understand those aspects of it, and I think it's, in my mind, it's a fair compromise. I could see an avenue where a new application coming forward, may have had all the lights originally, and we ended up in a similar place here, which is a couple lights farther back off the streetscape. I think that's, Sean, can you correct me if I'm wrong? You're about 18 feet off the road.
15, 18 feet back off at the edge of the sidewalk.
Yeah. Okay.
And about 20 feet off of the road. Street.
Yeah. So I can be a little more sensitive to that side of it. So that's all I have on the
Let's see,
light.
Carol.
And may I speak?
Yep.
And am I on now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Listen, I did some research of the Historical Society. Electricity wasn't strung down Levitt Street till 1905. So to put any form of light out on your front of your house or on the stone wall would have been a lantern with a candle in it, or a gas light if you had company coming over, something along those lines. There was no electricity on stone walls back then. And I think to allow any to go in here is a mistake, and I wouldn't vote for it. Not that I'm voting on this one, but sorry.
Okay, so now I want to transition to I think the answer, we're not going to make a decision tonight on these options, because I think what we need to do is provide feedback to Mr. Patch and the applicants. They provided some options. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Patch, but would be beneficial, what I see as the best course forward is we give you the feedback on the options, let you absorb it, synthesize it, and then come back to us with what you think would be appropriate, that the commission, takes into account what the commission says, takes into account with your goals, and we have something that we can physically look at. So in my mind, if that's option one, we have a plan that shows what the berms, the grading, and the size are, things like that. If it's option all the way to option three, similar, a markup of the photo or a plan, the as-built that were provided previously, showing how the geometry changes. So that's what I'd like to propose if the applicants are amenable to that.
That's exactly what we were seeking from the commission. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So with that, mix it up. Apologies, Steve, you didn't weigh in on the lights. I don't know. Are you good? Just give me a thumbs up if you're good.
I'm good. The only thing that I would maybe suggest, and we can certainly accomplish it with a site visit, would it be helpful if we had a picture of what some of the changes they've made at night versus the daytime pictures that we have, but just a suggestion.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. That might be helpful in I see this going as a continuance tonight, most likely. So that's good feedback. With that, related to the options in the walls, Eric, you're on my screen first, so I'm gonna default to you first.
Yeah, I think there's opportunity with any of the options that are proposed, to be honest. I appreciate the context that, what I think I sometimes get lost on is, Hingham's a evolving community and we have many historic periods. So it's not necessarily the colonial period we're only looking at, and the suggestion that the stonework has changed throughout that period, I appreciate. And in our stonework historic guideline, it says new stonework must be appropriate to the period and character of the building. I know this is a newer build, so I feel like it's not like we have a colonial building set right behind this. So I feel like, you know, I don't want to say I'm a little more flexible with that context, but I appreciate the sort of compromise that we're coming to. I think that there's a solution there in one of those options.
Great. Catherine, I see you up next.
Yes, definitely. I appreciate Mr. Farrell coming and working with us. That is really great. I do wonder if one option which has not been brought up would we remove the caps on the piers and bring it down by at least the amount of the caps. The caps are a more formal detail, and perhaps, you know, reducing that, removing those would have some softening and diminishment qualities. I also see some opportunities to reduce the large pillars at the edge of the driveway. I think that it wouldn't be, if you're removing the caps, to take down a couple of courses of rock. And I think, you know, having a big differential between those two piers on either side of the driveway, and then the drop down to the rounded or the sloped, curved, what are we going to call those?
Returns.
That maybe have a big impact to making the whole thing feel less formal, less grand on a very country road. So that would be an option I would like to hear about.
I just want to make sure I understand which piers or pillars you're speaking of. You're speaking of the two interior ones?
I'm talking about two interior piers and actually
right.
all piers. I think the stone caps would be an easy remove, and maybe, you know, once the stone caps are removed, bringing them down. I think
So the four of them, just to be clear, there are four we're looking at in this image.
There's
Six, because each pillar, Justin, each pillar has a 3-inch cap on them, and it's made out of bluestone. And you know, again, you know,
There's six when you count the ones I see at the end that Dan is gesturing to there. And
Yeah, there's 6 altogether.
right.
there's 6 altogether. We had 4 on the image that we were a little more zoomed in on.
I
So-
apologize. I'm talking about
No, I stand corrected.
and
Thank you.
maybe bringing down the piers.
All of the piers or just the two interior piers?
I think
6.
all the piers down by, you know, and bring them within maybe 2 inches of the walls. It would do
Yeah.
it would be a big.
Can I ask you just to pull up the intersection at Crest Farm Road, just a little further down Levitt? There's a very similar stone wall.
Is
at
that historic district?
It's just, yeah, it's just down the road from this property.
Yeah, if you can.
It has no, it kind of reads to Catherine's comment. It doesn't have the caps on it, and I think it does soften the look.
Well, just so you know, I actually visited that. They do have caps on them, but it's a different type of cap. Instead of you know, like a piece of bluestone or darker colored sandstone, they're actually, it's like flat work. You know, in other words, they've taken flat. What's happened with those is, and I'm sure the commission can appreciate it over time, when something new rock goes in, it's not reclaimed rock, but when new rock goes in, it looks, you know, it looks new. And so obviously when you have the bluestone on top of this cap on top of the existing wall, it would take a while for it to get to this, essentially this color, and then the bluestone would essentially meld into the overall color scheme. But these particular pillars have some level of flat work on top of them, flat stones, sort of. So it's just not, you just don't have just the top of the stones that comprise the pillar itself. There's actually you know, some kind of work up there, up top there. And that's a typical, you know, there's variations of it in pillars that you see around town. Some have, again, some have cement caps to them, some have granite caps to them, some have, you know, rock with pointed up and so forth, but it's an additional element.
Yeah, I think that there's maybe a finished flat stone on top, but doesn't protrude beyond the diameter of the pier. I would also say this is a development, not a individual driveway. So they are similar in their aesthetic, but they are different applications. And they're also not right on the driveway. They're quite set back from the road. So they don't feel, you know, as massive as yours does right on the driveway.
They are a little simpler even.
They are
They're bigger. They're all
They're
bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, much bigger, actually.
There's not quite the dramatic swoop up that we're dealing with the current.
Right. No, and I understand that, because if you look at what they did, is that the distance between them is much longer. So the slope up, you can spread it out over the length. And anytime you have a slope issue, distance is your friend.
So I think those are my comments. I think that I would have liked to heard a few more options in there.
So, okay, so I'm just trying to pull some of this out to make sure we get commission members, voting commission members especially, to give their full feedback. You kind of commented on the modification of the wall, but any comments on the idea of the berm and the grading aspect?
Me in particular?
Yes.
I think the grade is almost like foliage. It's almost like shrubbery. It could be pulled away at some point. I'm not sure we can really count on that to.
We could definitely take grade. Grade comes into context, you know, similar to like a retaining wall. So I
Okay.
don't look at it from the lens of foliage. But if you're, it sounds like you're lukewarm to that idea. If not cold warm.
Sit, and it might be kind of odd to have big and banked up. I think that might be odd to have it banked up onto the wall like that. And not a big distance between the sidewalk and the walls, so I'm not sure how adding an embankment of soil there would help. Yeah.
And just for Mr. Patch and everybody's, like, I'm not going around asking for these feedbacks to try to get consensus tonight, or I'm just trying to give you guys everybody's feedback and let you guys synthesize it and put your application back to us. It's not up, we shouldn't be designing or dictating, we should just be
Correct.
giving our feedback. So just want to make sure that that's clear, that these are just individual comments being shared.
Right. And again, it's just, again, I think the commissioner can understand that we're just trying to get a feel for where, you know,
Yep.
we don't want to waste the commission's time on something that's
Absolutely.
a non-starter. And
Yeah.
I just did the other commissioner's comment. She was talking about changing the grade on the wall with the sidewalk. No, that's what I'm talking about. This is on the section with the returns, because that seems to be the real issue, you know, the sloping up. And so basically trying to mitigate the sort of the slope up look. But
Small space, I feel like grading, there's already a little bit of a grade up. I
it's
can't see that.
very
tall.
slight. Yeah. So just so you know, my measurements basically on the pier to the left, Mr. Chair, the one to the pier left, it's basically about, I just have the measurements. That's basically from there, that point to where it intersects with that pier on the left is about a 9-inch rise. And the issue on the other side is there's more like a 14-inch rise. And part of the reason for that is you're on a downslope. So essentially the pillar to the right that you don't see in this picture, the one that's on the corner of the driveway at the street, is essentially down a little bit lower. So there's, as a result, it has a little bit further distance to go. And that's, you end up picking up sort of a more sharp rise in the return on the right side.
Right. Catherine, is that all your feedback?
I think that is all I have to say. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Justin?
I would agree with all of Catherine's comments. I would sum it up in my own mind as proposals that minimize the impact of those 6 columns. I suspect would be easy to support. Also, that would provide an opportunity to deal with some of the lighting concerns we had. But I think all of the ways forward involve presenting of some kind of a proposed design.
Correct. Thank you, Justin.
Very much. And by the way, I did, Mr. Patch, I know the Winter Street lights that you were referring to, so I know exactly what you meant about those. I walk by them frequently.
Carol, do you want, have any feedback on the wall?
I would sum it up. I feel like it should be all the height of the wall should be the same as the height that's right along Levitt Street. If you want to do a return down the drive, I guess that's okay, but I'd keep it all the same height without any piers at all and no lighting. So I'm your most conservative voter, as it would have maybe looked a long time ago.
I guess she is voting. I thought she said she wasn't voting.
That's right. Carol, you're not voting on this one.
Right, but I still.
I think because she wants candles.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify because I just wanted to make sure
Candles.
clarified for the record because you said I'm your most conservative voter. So just wanted to make sure.
Right, in general, yeah.
Yes. Josh, do you wish to share any feedback?
I will also not be voting on this proposal, but generally, I think that adding, some sort of additional earth in that area is a sensible approach. The height of the columns does not bother me as much if the caps can be removed. Those caps are, to my eye, very severe. It's a something that's used a lot in modern landscape architecture. And so those would be my comments. The only additional comment that I would have dates from previous meetings when I had asked a question about the existing white town-owned bollards that were in front of this property and that extend on either side of the property, that were, to my eye, look like an early 20th century element that was added. We see them in a lot of places around town. They generally have, as you can see on the very right of that photo, boards between them. It's kind of a quaint, appropriate, rural type of roadside fencing, and just some date that could be found to put on those, and some discussion of their historic merit or lack thereof, I would appreciate as part of the application.
Mr. Chair, maybe can I just help on that? I did investigate this, and just for the commission's knowledge, I know Justin is aware, but I'm a born and raised Hingham person. I've been around a long time. This is and I spoke with Randy about this, Randy Svesser at DPW. These bollards, these concrete posts were installed typically in the 30s, in early 40s by the town in areas of high traffic or substantial traffic. And they were put in as a safety measure. And they originally had wires because if you look at them, they have holes drilled in them, and there's wires. And there's an example of one that's still in existence over on North Street, Ben Wilcox's house there I think he came in front of the commission. There's the old North Street that kind of goes up and over, and but you will find them some inside the district, some and outside the district. There's ones on Beale Street, there's ones on High Street. It typically are in an area of a public road where there's a relatively high level of traffic, and it's a pure safety measure, because in this instance the grade of the adjacent to the road on my client's property went down and even further up the street. So, and you see this all over town, any like little streams or culverts or whatever, you'll have them. And basically what the town did, even like on Winter Street, I think what the town did is it's a lot cheaper to throw in some 2x6s that are going to current day 2x6s, which, you know, it's costs a lot less to replace than the wire, you know, that you would have to replace. And so, you know, with all due respect, I don't see those as really having a heck of a lot of historical significance. And I'm a real advocate for historic aspects of the town. You know, if anything, I kind of, you know, I'm not a fan of it, I guess say, but it's the cheap utilitarian way of dealing with it. Is today they would public safety purposes, if they were starting new, they'd probably put in some kind of metal guardrail, like you see, for example, on Central Street as you're heading past Garrison Road. Across the way there, there's a swampy area to the right, and the town chose to install a metal guardrail, and they essentially painted it a rust color, I guess. I think they painted it unless it rusted out. But essentially, that's what it's there for. And I'm just hopeful that helps explain that. And I did speak to Randy, and you know, Randy, I guess his assistant DPW guy no longer works for the town. He has yet to hire someone new. So that guy was handling this matter. So Randy's gonna, you know, do a deep dive into this. But it didn't seem like he had an issue with removing them because of their function basically is to provide a barrier from someone going down off the road and going down essentially in the downgraded area. So I hope that's
yeah. The way I interpreted these are, in my mind, is if the application is approved where the wall remains, these can be removed. If for some reason the application ended up in a manner where a portion or the wall was being removed, then they would have to stay. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrea, but should these technically be in our final motion that they are being officially removed?
If in fact, I'm not sure though that we have a definitive answer yet from DPW.
And do
But
we
from our
need
motion that if we
to make that a factor for our decision?
historic would.
We'd prefer it,
Our
yes.
viewpoint, we would say, it doesn't mean that we're granting permission, they're in the right of way, it's up to DPW, but
Right.
that we be a barrier to their removals.
Yes, we would prefer that. We can include that. Thank you.
Okay.
But our approval of this application, it would be a consequence of whether the bollards remain. Don't you agree? I think that's almost, if they're there, then does this application get approved if they are not to be removed?
But odds are there's an application that we can vote on that has the bollards there today and perhaps doesn't have them there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's where we're going, is that would be in the motion that the existing wall is modified as such and such, whatever the result is that's presented to us. And if that's, you know, we can make the motion and proceed. And within that motion, it would be confirming that the bollards are being removed.
Well, I mean,
Or would say that we have no objection to them
Yes.
being removed.
thank you, Justin.
But I guess what I'm saying is if for some reason the DPW doesn't remove them, it changes the whole aesthetic of the wall, having these prongs sticking up in front of the wall.
But that's not something the applicant fully controls.
Yeah, it's in the right of way, so it's outside of their and our jurisdiction. So I just wanted to put in there that, for the record, that, you know, and from by all accounts with DPW, it sounds like that's the direction it's going. So I don't think we need to overcomplicate it.
Yeah, sorry, Catherine, I agree. I think the wall is there nevertheless. So hopefully we can, those posts will be removed.
We have this happen a lot where it's like there's multiple people with jurisdiction and we're approving something, and it goes to another board and we don't know what's gonna happen there. So it's happened. Okay, Justin, Catherine, Carol, Josh, Steve, do you have any feedback?
No, I'm good at this time. Thanks, Dan.
And Mary Ann, I apologize, I missed you last time. I didn't see you on screen, and so I didn't, but do you have any comments on wall or lighting?
I had lots of comments, but everybody really spoke for them, so mine would totally be moot. There's one thing that sticks out in my mind, though, are two words, massive and simple. And I always think in a historic district, you try to get away from massive and you try to keep it simple and with the streetscape and to mold into your environment. And, you know, that's just my basic thrust on all of preservation.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to summarize here, hopefully to make this concise. The feedback I'm hearing, Mr. Patch, is there's less interest generally on the commission with option one of doing the berms, not none, but less. And that there's more interest in modifying the wall and trying to minimize it. There seems to be a lot of interest in potentially achieving that through cap removal, and then potentially modifying the geometry of the walls as they return back into the driveway. I think that's a fair summary. I think there's a lot for you to synthesize, and obviously you can't, there's different opinions and you can't make sure you check the box for everybody, but I think that's the general consensus and kind of the direction. Is there anything else I can provide you that would be helpful?
No, I mean, again, you go back and look at the minutes of town meeting when a former member of your board, George Ford, who was town council, he's the Uncle Sam in the 4th of July parade. He, he spoke to the on this.
You should say beloved Uncle Sam.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just in case he's watching. But again, I think, I don't have the words right in front of me, but I did get the transcript from Carol Falvey just to double check what was said at town meeting when this article came before town meeting, because you always want to try to do that. And, and I think he basically, what he articulated was that, essentially this isn't supposed to be a straitjacket on property owners, and it's supposed to be, a compromise, recognizing, we don't live in the 1700s now, we don't live in the 1800s. A lot of stuff has changed, and but basically, the idea is trying to come up with a win-win. And that's why, the Farrells hired me. I think they know that that's my philosophy, and I'm hoping to work with the commission to try to get there.
I agree with everything you said, Mr. Patch. I see a path forward with this, and I do agree that, if we want our historic properties to be maintained and passed on to future generations, you have to make sure that they're, appropriate for the times, and that means evolution and change. And so I agree. Our charge is not to freeze Hingham at a point in time and maintain it. It's to be sensitive. And so I think I think we're trying to be sensitive and not swing the pendulum too far in either direction, too restrictive or too progressive. So I think there's a path forward here.
Great.
So with
Great.
that, I assume we'll do a continuance to our next meeting.
You meet once a month, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think that should be enough time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I believe, and I can double check real quick, our next meeting is March 21st. Is that correct, Andrea?
Yes, that's right.
So we will continue 151 Levitt Street for the Farrells until March 21st at our next meeting.
Thank you all members of the commission.
Carol, Patch, thank you. I appreciate it.
We went long, but we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank
you
you
for working with us, and we'll see you in a month.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Adrian Ramsey, 55 North Street, Lincoln Historic District, for a new hardscape plan. How are you, Adrian?
Hi, I'm here, and I'm also joined by our landscape architect, Karen Goslin.
Great. So I think that this project is somewhat new to most of us on the commission, alternates and everything, but the construction of the house is wrapping up and when you got your last certificate, it was, we'll come back later, like most projects, and do the hardscape plan. So our focus is purely hardscape today, nothing house related. So with that, who wants to lead? Karen, do you want to share your screen and walk through us?
So I don't have a screen to share. I think Andrea was gonna
I
share
can do
the
it.
plan for.
Dan,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, so my name is Karen Goslin. I'm from CMG Design, and I'm doing the landscape design proposal for the Ramses at 55 North Street. Currently, there's an asphalt driveway that goes from the road all the way up the property to the end of the property where the shed is. It's about 1,056 square feet of asphalt. We're proposing to remove that and just do a driveway down at the bottom of the property. Where you can see there, which is now about 870 square feet. So it's about 186 square feet less than what's existing. The reason we did this is because we just wanted to have a level, smaller space and wanted to be able to turn around in the driveway instead of backing out into North Street in order to exit the property. We just felt like it was safer for the pedestrians coming down the walkway, for the traffic on North Street, and also for the Ramses. Also, by doing the walls in the front, the granite walls, we thought from the street, it would be best to see the focal point be the granite walls and the front porch versus the asphalt driveway going up the side of the property. So the focal point is more on the grass, the front porch, the plantings, and the granite walls. There's currently granite on site that would be used. We would use the reclaimed granite as part of the walls, and then also add more granite. It would be 2 granite walls at 4 feet high, just so that, because there's a total of a 12-foot grade difference. So we didn't want to have a huge, massive wall. We thought it would be better to have 2 smaller walls, as you can see in that section. So there'd be also a privet hedge to obscure the driveway from the sidewalk and North Street. So this property is in like a mixed use area in the historic district. So we thought this kind of just blended best with and was appropriate for this area.
Great. Let me just see if there's anything else. So there's this is removing the asphalt up here. This becomes grass.
Yep.
Walkway up. What material are the steps over on the side leading up to the brick?
So those would be granite as well, with
Okay.
black wrought iron railings, which you can see. I gave a page with pictures of the materials, and there's just black wrought iron railings that would go up the side. Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
Yep.
And the walkway would also be like a herringbone Boston paver.
Okay.
And
So
then more granite up the
yep,
next
cast
wall.
iron handrails leading to a Boston paver herringbone pattern coming across. Same thing up with these steps, leading to the wooden steps that's already been approved. What are these steps over here then? Granite little paver
Those are
steps?
just yeah, just inlaid into the grass to go to
Okay.
the side door.
Great. And then our retaining wall comes across here, 4 feet tall, 6 foot offset, another 4 foot tall retaining wall, solid granite retaining walls on each side.
Yeah.
And
And
then
did it say herringbone on the brick, on the drawing somewhere?
yes, that's what they said.
Yes, it does. Okay.
And then this existing stone out front is existing. So this ends up being a mix. These 2 retaining walls set back are a mix of existing salvaged from site blended in with some new.
Correct.
Great. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a point. During our previous conversation, I think it's important to note that the driveway itself is pretty steep. And so it's very difficult to get up there and down in the winter. And so I think this was part of the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian,
You
was
are
this,
correct.
this was a solution for them.
That is correct, Andrea. Thank you.
Yeah,
So-
thank you. And they just really wanted to be able to turn around in the driveway versus always backing out into North Street, especially when the driveway is icy. It is a pretty steep slope right now, so.
Is the fence still in the yard as the two on Google Maps? It's a
It was a
2019
white wood fence.
white wooden fence, and yeah.
So for context, this driveway shifts over. Does it start? It looks like it seems like the
Yeah, so
driveway starts.
that white fence would be gone.
Yep, and the driveway would start about here somewhere, just in front of the fence.
That's correct.
And
Yep,
so we'd
because
be
you can bring
demoing
it
the
up.
fence.
I think the fence is already gone.
I think the fence is gone.
That was
Fence is
part of the
gone?
last application.
Right.
Yep, so these, I assume it seems like these granite pieces are what get reused and mixed in. Okay. I think that's a good summary. I'm gonna kick it over, and who's on my screen first? I see Eric, sorry. I don't know why you keep going to the top. You're up.
My initial reactions, I didn't love the large asphalt right by the sidewalk on sort of the downtown promenade down to the water. The hedge certainly helps to soften it to a certain degree. I can sympathize though with the concerns of just trying to back out of that driveway. With many cars that probably drive too fast down that street than they should. And certainly the slope in the winter, that was helpful to hear too, because that sympathized me a little bit more to this. I think without those components, I was a little more hesitant to have this large asphalt right on the sidewalk. I think I still am kind of hesitant, and I'm a little skeptical of the actual, honestly, the turning radius there to even turn a car around. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it'd be tricky in itself to do that. So, but maybe you can. So digesting it, my initial reaction, I'm hesitant to have I think all the way down the street there isn't really a similar paved surface like this, except maybe at Tosca Cafe for parking. So that's my initial reactions. The hedge, like I said, certainly helps. So I know that's what we always talk about, vegetation, the hedge could go away, but like the section where it shows the hedge, tall enough where it's blocking that is compelling. It's just hard to know if that hedge will be there forever. So those are my initial.
So the hedge that I proposed is a privet, so that stays pretty narrow, but it does grow as tall as you want it to, and you can also trim it at any height. So we had talked about, if it was at like a 4 to 6 foot height, then if you see like the sectional, when you're walking down the sidewalk, it stays pretty full, year round. The leaves do fall off, but usually like in January. So it stays pretty full.
Yeah,
Add
I think
something?
hold on, Carol. I think that Eric's comment was more related to, we can't take into context vegetation, knowing that it could drought and die in water. So we always have to look at these with the lens of the vegetation's gone. So totally appreciate what you're doing there. But I think that's more where Eric's comment was coming. We always have to, what if it dies and it's not there type of situation. It's less of a permanent fixture. Justin, you're on top now, so do you have any comments?
Yeah, it's a lot of asphalt right there. I think it's jarring to the rhythm of the street. But it's like I said, it's a very tough geometry there. I can see really strongly sympathize with the traffic, North Street, turning around, getting in and out of there without getting T-boned. So, but it is a lot of asphalt. I wish I had a really constructive suggestion.
Okay, Catherine.
I had a couple of thoughts. I would really have loved to have seen a couple of cars represented in the driveway so we could get a sense for the scale. I think that would be useful. I wonder, how many cars would fit in the driveway as it is versus what we're trying to achieve here down low. And one of the things that was really special about this house is that it was unique to the district. There was this long sloping grass up to the house, and it was a softening, a break in the rhythm of the streetscape. And this definitely takes that out of the picture completely. That soft sloping grade is gone and replaced with the two retaining walls. And I'm wondering if there's a way to get some of that soft, gradual, natural, and simple feeling back to this house. Because I appreciate the challenges of the site. There's a big grade change and it's a compact site, but it seems like an awful lot of, this seems like a Beacon Hill aesthetic. And I know there are some challenges that we need to make accommodations for and some safety concerns as well. But I feel like we're not quite capturing.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Our thought was when we were talking it all out, and we came up with like 3 or 4 plans, but our thought was that when you look up at the house, you'll now see all green grass instead of the asphalt going down the whole length. So that was why we put the driveway down at the bottom, thinking, well, it's 200 less square feet of asphalt than what's there now. So our thought was when you are driving down the road and you look up, you'll see all green grass, up the side of the house. And then there'll be green grass in front of the house. So that's why we did the 2 walls to just bring the greenery back. So I do know that I understand what you're saying about the driveway. As far as the width, it would fit 2 car widths. You can see on that sectional, that's actually drawn to scale of the same as the plan. So it's 20 feet wide. So it fits about 2 car width wide.
So how many cars total can park in this? Just two or 4 stacked in there?
Sorry about that. Yeah, you could stack 4 if you needed to, but they really wanted to just at least be able to park 2 side by side.
I think those are my big concerns. The terracing, the elaborateness of it, the loss of simplicity, and the asphalt too is also a concern. Maybe another option or another treatment there. So I have.
Carol, do you have, oh, actually, did I get through everybody that's voting? 1, 2.
Sorry, are you calling on me?
Sorry, Josh.
I share the concerns of the other members. There's, as you get towards the water, the houses tend to be tighter to the streetscape, but as you get in this portion of North Street, they tend to be farther back, and there do tend to be lawns between the street and the residences. And it's not entirely dimensioned on here, but it looks like almost 2/3 of the front yard becomes asphalt. I don't think it's quite 2/3, but it is a substantial portion right there on the streetscape. And I think that, that while it might improve this property, it does have, somewhat of a deleterious effect on the streetscape as a whole. a couple things that, might mitigate that would be to reduce the size of the parking pad. It seems to stretch almost within a couple of feet of, the entirety of the lot, the width of the lot. And one thing that we have suggested on other properties or required on other properties, even where they're much larger front yards and there were, just a drive through it, that was recommended was a pea gravel or something, more permeable, less permanent. Something like that might help soften this somewhat. But my other concern is when you look at the sectional elevation, which I appreciate, there is just a tremendous change, and it doesn't really show in Google Street View. But there is a tremendous change in elevation that we're talking about here, and there's some kind of sheerness that even though it's broken up, from the street, that you're dealing with here, and if there's any way to replace retaining walls with berms, that might be something that would be a little bit better. That there's the house that's on the corner of Ship and North, and there's quite a bit of earth that is packed in there between the streetscape and the level of the foundation of that house. So there's a precedent, up and down the street for earth as opposed to sheerer granite retaining walls. Just broad concerns.
So Steve.
Yeah, thanks. Can you go back to the drawing, Dan?
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted clarification on was, as I was looking at like the southern lot line there by the proposed driveway. Looks like there's some existing trees on the right, and then we've got the hedge. Is there gonna be anything in between there, or is that just gonna be open space? So when you're driving, I guess it would be northbound up North Street, that you would have a view of the parking area, or is there something in that space?
Adrian might be able to answer that one better than me. I believe it might be pretty open.
Karen, I can speak to that really quickly. There are
Okay.
existing trees there, and there's in fact at the very corner of the property close to the sidewalk, a tree that actually is pretty large that's owned by the town that we don't have any kind of control over to trim it or anything like that. So you can see right there, that tree. And those bushes are still intact. So right now, if you drove by, obviously the leaves are off, but that is still in place.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Carol?
A couple of things. I do agree with those who have said it's a lot of blacktop right near the street. And in general, we don't normally allow cars in front of the houses. Nothing says this is a new house more clearly than cars parked out front. So we've always tried to park them around the back. We are familiar with this property, having been there when they were going through the renovations, and that is a steep driveway, and I'm not sure what the solution to it is. If you're going to use a hedge to hide cars that are parked behind it, you don't want to use privet because they don't have any leaves all winter long. Something like arborvitae something that's green all year might be a better, softer look and hide the cars if you're going to go do that. And the same with the little row of boxwood, or what are they? No, they're hydrangea up at the house, will be nothing but a stack of sticks most 6 months out of the year. I do like your choice of brick and granite slabs, and I just think the whole thing is very handsome looking. If it were my house, I'd not like unloading my car with groceries and suitcases and whatever all the way down at the street level and then walking all the way up and into the house, especially with the kitchen at the back of the house. That's a long hike carrying a lot of groceries. So I wish you could think of some way to keep the opening going up along the side of the house, even if it's only part way, and then maybe blacktopping back there. but I just have trouble thinking about parking cars out in front, especially as you look at the other houses along the street. That section of greenery right off the sidewalk, I think, is an important look that we could probably preserve. But we're not supposed to design for you, but those are my immediate thoughts.
Great. Marianne?
Don't have any additional comments, no.
Okay. I think, are there any butters that wish to comment? Okay, I'm gonna go last then. So I do agree with the other commission members. It's definitely a lot of asphalt bringing it close to the driveway or to the sidewalk. But I drive by here a lot. My office used to be across the street. I live around the corner, so I drive by a lot. And I kind of look at this slightly differently, which is inclined asphalt looking at you on an angle long. That's about 800 square feet of asphalt. And what they're proposing is about 800 square feet of asphalt. So I keep going back and forth in my head of what's the lesser, right? You're
And
bringing it
asphalt
close.
at an oblique angle.
What's
If
the
that's the
lesser?
right word.
And so I do think there were some good suggestions to consider alternative materials, you know, to the asphalt. I think that maybe the driveway could be shrunk up. It's like 40 by 20. I think the 20 is kind of where it's stuck at, but maybe a few feet pulling it off of the property line a little bit helps soften it a little bit. I don't see another way around getting a creative. I mean, maybe you could get a little creative and let me switch to the other screen. Maybe you get a little creative with a little bit of a raise here so that, you know, this isn't so short. Maybe you could do another little raise here just to give it a little wall feature so that whatever vegetation there is there helps soften it, because you're pretty far down when you're over here, especially if you're across the street, it tapers away further. So maybe a little wall in there kind of flanking, not 4 feet tall, but maybe that helps a little bit. I'm not sure if maybe, I don't know what the angle is that these can safely go to. I know that you can increase the heights a little bit. But I think that's what you were suggesting, Karen, is that, you know, you're trying to give that appearance of the grass. So when you're looking at it, your focal point is there. I think understanding how steep that's going to be, the vegetation makes sense. I think those are the biggest things. I think the stairs, the brick walk, the stepping stones. I mean, it's great to take out all this asphalt that's up on a steep angle like that. So I think generally the commission's feelings are, can we somehow soften and minimize this in some capacity?
I think also, Mr. Chairman, it would be useful to see a front elevation. This is a, you know, part of our oldest district. And it would be maybe a photo with some superimposed, you know, on it. Because it's a totally different location now. So that old photo really doesn't help
Right.
us.
It takes a lot of effort in my own mind to try and picture what this would look like from the street.
Yeah, I think that'd be useful.
We actually had thought about doing a wall, like where that privet hedge is right behind it, just to get the driveway level a little different. But the problem was the grade it's such a sharp grade right now from the driveway down across the sidewalk onto the road that you would actually bottom out your car if you raised the grade of the driveway at all. So that was another problem.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking raising the grade, but just having a little accent wall in there. Like on the side,
Okay.
leave the grade down and then just a little accent wall, just something to consider. And then the other thing I guess you could do is you could push it off the road a little bit. I don't know if you can push this wall in a little bit, maybe to 5 feet, and then this gets a little steeper and it pulls this a foot off the road. I just think little adjustments like that, and maybe they're not possible, but I think those sort of things to consider, I think would be helpful for the commission.
That's great. Yeah, thanks. Our biggest thing was we were trying to reduce the number of steps as well. Like somebody had suggested, there's so many steps up to the doorway. So that was our other reason for having 2 4-foot walls, just to kind of do 7 steps, take a break, and then 7 more instead of having 14 all in one line. Or to, you know, so that's why we were trying to decrease the wall size as well.
Great. Any other feedback that would be helpful, Karen, Adrian?
No, I think this was great. Thank you.
Okay.
Adrian, I'm not sure.
So I'm gonna suggest that we do a continuance, let you digest that. If a month's enough time, great. If not, you can reach out to Andrea, and we'll push you on the next one. But for now, we'll do a continuance to the March 21st meeting.
All right,
Great,
thank you very much,
very
everyone.
much.
And to answer your question earlier, Carol, Adrian has 2 strong boys for a reason. She'll never have to carry her own luggage up the street.
I
stairs.
did not know that.
Chivalrous ones.
Yes.
Last time I saw them, they were little guys.
Oldest one's in middle school now.
They can carry groceries for sure.
Yep. All right, thanks, everybody. Next agenda item is, sorry, Historic Society. Sorry, Deidre. Sorry for delayed. We're quite a bit behind. So Lincoln Historic District, 181 North Street, the Benjamin Lincoln House, to install a 12 square foot double-sided wood sign with wood post. So am I sharing or are you, Deidre?
May I please,
And
Dan?
before we proceed, a quick clarification. I noticed 2 boxes are checked on the application, a certificate of appropriateness box and a maintenance non-applicability. Is that,
Which is it?
yeah, which is it? I bet it's a certificate of appropriateness?
Yes, certificate of appropriateness.
Yeah, you should be able to share, Deidre.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, give me 1 second. Says it's loading.
It's a lot of drama.
I'm kind of freezing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
You want me? I have it if you want me to share.
Give me 1 more second. Sorry, Dan. You would think.
We have copies of it.
There we go. Thank you for your patience. Yes, so this is our application is for,
We don't see anything yet.
okay. With me tonight, I'm Deirdre Anderson. I head up the Hingham Historical Society. With me tonight is Kevin Flaherty from our Facilities Committee, and also Ben Wilcox of Wilcox Corporation, who has been our partner in everything we've been doing with the Benjamin Lincoln House. So tonight we are in front of you to ask for a certificate of appropriateness for Benjamin Lincoln House signage. We have officially opened the museum as of last month, and we welcome all of you to come visit us. And we have would like to obviously put up a sign so that people know where they can come to see the museum. So can you all see the sign?
Oh,
Yeah,
we can see the sheriff.
we're seeing a Hingham Historic Society.
Okay, great. And I'm
Okay.
going to go down to the. Okay, so can you see the second slide now?
We see
Yeah,
your
super.
inspiration. Yep.
Great. So what we took our inspiration from for this sign was other historic locations. What you see in front of you is the Buckman Tavern in Lexington, the Wayside Inn in Sudbury, and a model of a sign in Colonial Williamsburg. As we thought about installing a sign at this new house museum, we also wanted it to speak to the signage at our other museums, namely the Old Ordinary across the street and the sign which we sought approval from several years from this commission at the Hingham Heritage Museum on Main Street. So you will see the sign that we have proposed visually is a combination of both the beautiful carved eagle sign, which is our logo inspired by W.A. Dwiggins, who was a Hingham resident, father of graphic design, and also picked up the colors from the Old Ordinary sign on Lincoln Street. So that was our inspiration and sort of how we came to the table to tie these signage together. And at this point, I'm going to turn over the walkthrough of what we're proposing to Ben Wilcox, who can walk through dimensions and materials. Does that sound okay?
Thank you.
Great. Take it away, Ben.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. What we have here is actually two proposals, two different heights of sign. We have to go in front of the ZBA for either a special permit or a variance. So one of the signs will be 48 inches tall, one on the right, with a total height of around 9 feet. That's the one you're seeing now. You want to advance?
Sure.
These are the two artist renderings of what the two different sizes of signs would look like. The one on the right is a 9-foot tall sign with a sign panel itself about 48 inches. The one on the left is a 6-foot high sign with a panel about 36 inches. For perspective, this rendering was taken at the street. Zoning Board of Appeals requires us to be 15 feet back, but because of the fact that the roadway is 40 feet from the sign, that is approximately what they would look like at 40 feet. I think next. Here's the cause of the problem. You can see how far the property line of the Benjamin Lincoln House is behind the roadway. Now, normally all the signs downtown are within either the back of the sidewalk or right on the road, and that's where the measuring line here is. Here, we're stuck measuring it from the actual traveled way being 40 feet from the sign. That's why we're asking for two different signs. The original application was for the 9-foot sign, and an alternate would be the 6-foot sign.
But you're saying you would prefer the 9-foot? The Historical Society would, okay.
Yes, because of the fact that it's 40 feet from the roadway.
Yeah.
Right, and there, we do want to support the purpose of the sign is for it to be legible, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I can go over the materials with you if you'd like. The post itself, obviously the core will be pressure treated lumber. If we go with a 9-foot sign, the top of the post would be about 7 inches wide and the bottom will be 9. If we end up being restricted by ZBA to 6 feet, the top of the post will be around 5 and the bottom will be 7. It's the top of the post will be pine on top of southern yellow pine. The bottom of the post will be mahogany on top of southern yellow pine. There may be a small skirt in the bottom out of PVC to keep the wood out of the earth.
Very detailed and helpful. Anything else to share or?
Nope, that's the only thing I did want to point out. We are, if you can see the hanging signs, we are in our agreement with the town. When we received community preservation funds, we are obligated to have mention of the community preservation project on the signage, which is the reason for the tag signs on the bottom.
I think that's a nice upgrade to the current signage that's on most CPC projects. I'll jump off. I think the sign's great. I think given that this house is 100 years younger than the Old Ordinary. I think it's very appropriate with the gilding, and I think it, you know, the posts and everything makes a lot of sense. So personally, I'd be supportive of either size and let ZBA determine which direction you would go, but that's just my preference. Hopefully to try to save some time, we don't have to get too far or too deep into this, so I'm gonna try to go quick through. Catherine.
I think it's very appropriate. I think it's a beautiful sign. I love how it mimics the one on the old Derby, and I think it's very appropriate. I'm fine with either size.
Great, Justin.
I think both proposals are very appropriate, and I welcome the ZBA's approval.
Josh.
Ditto, Justin.
Steve.
I love it. I think it's great. I would personally go for the 9 foot. I know that's not us, but I'm a big guy. I like to go big. But being set back so far, I think 6 foot would be inappropriate. I think the 9 foot's the way to go. So I think it's awesome though.
Eric.
Yep, happy with the proposal.
Great, thank you. Carol.
I love it, and I think the building's so important, it should be the 9 foot height.
Mary Ann.
It looks lovely. Either size, I think is lovely.
Great. Anybody from?
Is this like a 10 from the Russian judge or something?
Is
yeah, who's gonna throw the monkey in the red?
All agree.
Any citizens on the call wish to provide feedback? Going once, twice. Oh, somebody just popped up. Mr. Nash? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it looks great. Ties in nicely with Older Ordinary and looks great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Any
Tim.
other citizens wish to provide feedback? All right, hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion if somebody would be so kind to make one.
We all wait for Justin.
Are
Yeah,
we waiting for Justin?
Yes, Justin.
I'll make that motion. And now I want to have the records correctly reference 181.
North Street.
North Street.
North Street, yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion for 181 North Street to install.
To issue a
How should I
certificate of
word this?
approval.
Either of the two proposals submitted to the commission. I believe one of them is freshly documents submitted today.
No, it was about a week ago.
Was it
just-
about a week ago? Help me
Yeah.
get the dates right on the two.
Sorry, I didn't pre-draft motions today. My apologies.
No,
Justin, I don't think the dates will tell us. I think the
Okay.
difference is going to be whether the post is 6 feet or 9 feet.
so I'd like to make a motion to, and I'm sorry for the not having using the detailed description in the application. But would like to refer to both the 6 foot and 9 foot proposed designs.
All right, so just summarize, that is a certificate of appropriateness motion. The motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness to install a 12 square foot double-sided wood carved sign on either a 6 or a 9 foot post for the application dated 1/24/24. Is that what you said, Justin?
That's what I said.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
And let me just clarify. I think that the sign itself, it's not just the post,
Right.
but the dimensions, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, the dimensions of the sign would change with the larger post. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It's
can give you-
documented that way in our application.
Yeah, I can give you dates if that helps. The 9 foot sign was documented as December 8th, 2023. And the 6 foot sign was documented February 6th, 2024. And Andrew, you have all those documents.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's the
For a much
motion.
better
Was
motion.
Seconded. Who made that second?
Me, I did.
I can't take a second from you because you are an alternate tonight.
I'll
Sorry.
second.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, so motion made, seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Eric, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
Aye.
I can't remember, Steve or Josh, who did I appoint to this one?
I think me,
Yes,
aye.
okay. Josh, aye, and it's an aye
Aye.
for me, so it's unanimous. Thank you, Deidre. Thank you, Ben, for the detail, and yeah, hopefully a nice donor is paying for your sign.
Yeah, that's the hope. Thank you so much, everybody. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, so still behind schedule, but getting closer. Next on the agenda is 54 Middle Street. Mr. and Mrs. Nash, located in the Hingham Historic District, Hingham Center Local Historic District, to install a solar panel array on the roof of either one or two buildings as shown in options in the application. So, just because we're all over the place tonight, I believe the voting members are myself, Justin, Carol, I'm sorry, myself, Justin, Catherine, Eric, and Steve, I believe, is on this one, correct? Great. All right. So those
No,
are
I
five.
think I'm have a conflict. Is this?
Oh, he
is
has,
Middle
yes.
Street?
You're right, sorry. Sorry. 54 Middle Street, the voting members are myself, Steve, Josh, Eric, and Catherine. Thank you. Okay, so with that, who is presenting on this application?
I am.
Miss-
This is Tim.
Oh, hi. Oh, there you are again.
Hey, all right. Can you hear me all right?
Yep. Do you need me to share, or will you be sharing materials?
I could try, and if I fail, I'll pass it back to you, Dan.
Sounds good.
Let's see here. Is that working?
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to pursue a certificate of appropriateness. We love Hingham and love the historic nature of it. Andrea's been very kind to work with me on this project. I think a lot of people may have an opinion, a strong opinion one way or another, but I'm going to go right to something I just picked up on about a half hour ago, and that was I know Dan Clark hates sloped asphalt, right? And I have asphalt shingles on my barn.
Those are strong words I try not to use, but yes.
Take away the hate word, but I in all seriousness, I'm pursuing a certificate of appropriateness for putting solar panels on the roof of our barn. And I'll show you this is our house. A few of you, I think 3 or 4 of you came out to visit with Andrea maybe last summer.
Yes.
And thank you very much for coming to visit. This is the Isaiah Hersey house in Old Hingham Center. And we're at the beginning of the parade, which is a great place to live. And this is a barn we put in, and this is an 1850s home, Isaiah Hersey. And this barn was put up in 2007. And we have like a little courtyard in between the two. But on the side of the barn, you can't see. I'm looking to, my wife and I, Jody and I, are looking to put solar panels on that south side that's facing the sun. And a number of years ago, we had some trees that were in the way, and our neighbor Kevin Taylor took down those trees, and that created an opportunity. It also created a lot of heat upstairs in the barn where I have a desk and kind of an office area. So in the summer, it's unbearable, and actually the panels will have a cooling effect and also provide electricity for air conditioning and that kind of thing. And also I have an electric car inside that barn, and I make the Hingham Electric Company quite happy with my charging. And I am, so I'm interested in offsetting some of the cost of that electricity and also cooling the upstairs of the barn by blocking the sun from hitting the asphalt shingles. And I'm real excited about it. And I certainly recognize that being in a historic district, that is not something that Isaiah Hersey would have had in the 1850s. But I know that, we've pivoted from, whale oil to coal to oil, natural gas, and solar and wind now. So I'm really interested in hearing some of your thoughts on this. Like I said, Andrea's been very kind to share her perspective and has encouraged me to pursue this. So with that, I noticed recently, I guess it was something in the Anchor over a year ago that had a barn in Hingham that has solar panels on the roof. And it's a historic barn. I'm not exactly sure where this is located. Maybe some of you do know where that is. But this was on a write-up in the Anchor on August 29, 2022. But here is a long list of things. I think, did you all get the booklet in advance? I sent out did you get a chance to take a peek at it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I won't drag you through these things. This is what a fully loaded proposal would look like. And I looked at this initially, 31 panels on the house and the barn. And, this saves the most electricity. And I was excited about this in concept, but I also recognize and deeply appreciate the greatness of living in a historic district. So despite the numbers and the economics and having it make an economic sense, we scaled this back and just decided to focus on just the south facing roof of the barn. And it's all black, and these white lines in between wouldn't be applicable. It's unfortunate that the way they make this rendering, it looks like, there's white lines in between. It does look all black. It looks like an asphalt roof from a distance. It doesn't have that shine, but it looks very tasteful. And I think some of the words I got out of earlier presentations where you want to keep things simple, and this is keeping things simple. I think pursuing both would be too much. But also some other comments that came up was, where that how the world has changed since the 1800s, and we're all in favor of evolution, and we need to evolve, and we want to be sensitive. So I'm interested in having panels on the south facing side of the roof, and the economics isn't as strong. It still makes good sense from my standpoint, but I'm here to talk to you about whether it makes sense from your standpoint. There are great things from the company. This is Isaacson Solar out of Fall River, and they seem very talented. I mentioned earlier that the panels don't show these white lines in between. It almost looks, so this is what it would look like on a dormer. It looks a lot better. This is what the panels really look like, as opposed to things that are designed to show you where the panel placement would be. And this is another home, what it might look like. But you can see with this roof line here, it looks kind of cumbersome. What I'm pursuing is something that's like this over here. You able to see my cursor move?
Yes.
And where we are in this process, right? We've had a consultation, we've filed the documentation, it's done a site survey, and now I'm in the process of this approval process. So that is why I'm here, and I'm open to questions.
All right, thank you. I'm going to start off with a few questions, some of which you may have answers to, some maybe Andrea can. Is the barn original or new?
That was built in 2007. It's new.
All right, that's what I thought. Want to double check. So that's an 07. And then is that an addition off of the rear main house? So if you go back a few slides, you have that kind of graph there, right there. You go forward a few more slides. Right there.
Yeah.
Back where that little lollipop looking tree is that
Yep.
part of the addition?
So yeah, this part is an addition from 2000, I'm sorry, 1995.
95, okay. So the original massing of the original house is that front part solar panel.
Yes, this right here is the Isaiah Hersey house, yeah.
Okay, great. So just trying to understand what's original, what's addition, what's new, is helpful. And there's, as you touched on, the world is changing and there's a balance to be struck. And National Park Service, Secretary of Interior, where we get our guidance from, it's kind of our Secretary of Interior standards for rehab specifically, gives guidance on solar panels. And this has been an evolution and it's changed, I think, from probably what was a few years ago. So for the benefit of everybody on the call, there has been a little bit of a change in the philosophy of solar panels. It used to be a lot more restrictive and the thought was no, it's not appropriate, it's diminishing on the house, it detracts from the original house. NPS has softened on the view, and they have lots of examples if you go through the technical briefs, where additions, specifically, where you have that differentiation between what was old and new, they've found that to be more appropriate application of solar panels. Low sloped, where you can't see the roof. I don't know if the dormers is quite low slope on the garage, as you point out. But if you look back behind that little lollipop tree, that is both an addition and pretty low slope. It's not the lowest, but it's a lower slope. It's probably like a 312. So I think that's all a long way of saying, I personally believe that there's a pathway for solar panels for this project that is sensitive to the house, that meets our guiding principles from the NPS. So I just want to share that. I don't know if all the commission members have seen those updates that the NPS has put out, but it definitely has softened. Not to say that it's our only guiding principle. There are others, but I did want to put that data point out there before we dove into this. So with that,
and did you say one of those data points of softening is the relative age of construction at a site?
Yes, so specifically additions or auxiliary buildings are seen as more of an appropriate place to do it. So with that, I'm going to skip over to Catherine.
Thank you for this application. It's very thorough. I did go to the site this past summer and was able to see the situation there. And I definitely appreciate wanting to move forward with green energy in these times. I do have, one quick question is the depth of the array. How deep is it going to be? Because the picture that we saw looked a little bulky, like it was maybe 5 or 6 inches deep. What is the actual depth of it?
So I think it's about 4 inches, but I'll need to double check on that.
And I guess I have a few thoughts. I agree that the barn is in theory an appropriate place for it. I'm glad to hear that you're not interested in putting it on the main body of the home, the original structure. This is the beginning of the historic district, I believe. It's the gateway kind of to Middle Street. And this, now that the tree's gone, this is a really apparent facade. That angle and that pitch of the dormer is right there. So that is one thing turning through my head. Some concern about that. But
what is it? I'm sorry, Catherine. What is it you're concerned about? The angle?
as you're coming across Pleasant Street, the roof is really clear now. It's really right there. And it's sort of the opening, it's the gateway to the middle street, which is a really beautiful historic street. And so in my head, I think, oh, is that the first thing we want to see coming through into the district? But I also know, so there's a little bit of a struggle. It's our first solar array that we'd be approving on my watch in a more visible area. So those are just my thoughts, and I guess I wanted to just speak them out loud.
Yep.
Mr. Nash, can I share my screen real quick? Just because I hadn't thought about Catherine's viewpoint, but I just want to share.
Sure.
I think Google Street Maps, just the tree is still there, so it's hard to get a sense for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's why the one thing I noticed though is even with the tree that, yeah, the trees are up against it, so it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
But even with the, but what I was going to say, Catherine, is that with the barn is set back, your eye is drawn towards the house more so than hey, Mr. Nash, can you hit stop share?
Yeah, Dan, thank you. I wasn't on the commission during the summer, so I haven't seen the site, so this will be really helpful for me.
Yep, let me show. So this is, so that is 54 middle, and the barn, which is currently skewed by the trees, is right here. So
Yep.
It's hard to sense for the angle of the dormer, but I was driving down and was anticipating this application, and it's right there.
Yep. Yeah, I was trying to get a context of how far back this is. So I guess the one benefit is this barn is pushed back from the house.
Yep, it was set back.
Just food for thought, but any other comments, Catherine?
Nope, that's it for me, thanks.
Josh?
I think that the reduced scope is generally appropriate. I've installed solar on a previous home of mine. I know that at some point the economics don't make sense if you reduce the panels below a certain point. If I was curious if Mr. Nash would like to install more panels, or if your opinion is that this is exactly what you would like to install, is the lesser of these two scopes.
So I would, from an economic standpoint, I would like to install more panels, but from a historic district standpoint and enjoying a historic district and selecting our house because it was in a historic district, I'm more inclined to go with the simpler design on the 2007 garage or barn, rather than pursuing something and kind of going back and forth with the commission over a long period of time. I'm hopeful that this is clean enough, simple enough, logical enough to be supported. And I do owe Catherine Daly the answer to the question about the depth of it, but I also think that the dormer is mostly covered by a panel, so I'm almost thinking that it's not, I don't if it's 4 inches or 6 inches, I don't think it's going to be 6 inches, but if it's 3, 4, 5 inches, it's all covering the entire dormer. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking it's not going to be that offensive. It's not going to be offensive at all. I mean, I think it's beautiful, frankly.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment? I think having, when I look at that garage, I think it's an advantage that it does have the dormer, and I think that when the panels are up there, they're going to be solid. As Mr. Nash said, they're not. There won't be white lines as shown. They'll be solid, and the other advantage is that they are not like Tesla tiles, which are very shiny. And I think that would be a completely different story. But, you know, so I think there's an advantage to having the dormer there, having it on the dormer, and a matte sort of finish to the tile.
So according to the spec sheet from Isaacson, it says that they're 1.18 inches thick, including the frames.
Oh, wow.
That's skinny.
Yep.
I don't understand that. Don't they sit up above the roof that's there now, the tile roof?
Yeah, they sit on top of the panel. And Catherine was asking how thick is the panel itself.
Oh, I thought you were saying how far up will it sit off of the roof?
I think your question might have been more about the entire assembly because there is the panel, but
Right.
generally there's,
Bracket.
you know, some sort of.
She's here. She can tell us.
Yeah, I was more concerned with the entire assembly, how
Okay.
it up off the roof, and you know what the reveal would be, what we'd be seeing if it was going to be a big 4-inch,
Okay.
6.
Right, if a pigeon was on the roof, how big a step up would the pigeon have to take?
Yeah. Can I share screen again?
Yeah, I was about to also. Here's other examples that kind of show it.
Yeah.
Ooh, slow down. These are good examples. So yours won't look like the
It's
one
more
on
of this that you're talking about, Mr. Nash, not this where you're gonna see those white lines, but more solid monolith
Yes.
massing like this.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's a perfect rectangle. It doesn't have any of these.
Right. Side pieces here.
Yeah. And that's another reason
Quickly in the dormer.
why I like it. I mean, I have tremendous respect for what you guys have all collectively done to preserve these various historical districts, but I also, and I appreciate Catherine's comment about, you know, the beginning of Middle Street being like a gateway into the Hingham Center Historic District. My neighbor Kevin Taylor is in a historic home as well on the corner. Well, he's probably the first house, and he's the one who's on the barn side. He's most affected by it, and I think it would be an amazingly powerful and tastefully done thing for the town to approve and the historic district to approve something like this during this period of coastal flooding and hurricanes and issues, you know, whether you believe in climate change or not, it's real. You know, the temperature's up 2 degrees Fahrenheit from 100 years ago, average temperature in New England. And, you know, this isn't going away, right? And I think if we get on board with it, I think the benefits and the recognition of the humility associated with saying, hey, you know, we're not using whale oil anymore, right? We're doing different things with generating energy. And this is a clean form, a very clean form. And I think the town would be impressed and not put off by solar panels on the dormer, but you all would know better.
To keep this train going,
We welcome comments.
trying to
even if
remember who
it
else
isn't
I have
voting.
gotten to
I'll go
yet.
there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Carol said it earlier, I'm tend to be very conservative about this. And I was a little concerned, quite candidly, earlier. I think the design, though, is, if you're gonna do it, it's very unobtrusive, the way that you had it. I think the comment was made earlier about the dormer really is gonna hide a lot of this as well. It doesn't have that steep raking that you would normally see. I did want to ask Catherine one comment, though. You'd made something when you're coming down Pleasant Street. Is there like a cross? Forgive me for not knowing that area so intimately. I see what it looks like off of Middle Street, but when you're on Pleasant, can you see it, the barn from that street, or no?
Yes, you're coming down Union Street and you're gonna cross over Pleasant Street.
Yep.
It really with the trees gone, it is right there. I'm not saying that's a deal breaker for me.
No,
I just
no.
want to out to the commission. that it's, that facade of the barn is much more apparent now that.
Got it. Yep, thank you. I didn't mean to intimate that at all. So I guess my comment would be, if you're gonna do it in a historic district, this is probably the way to do it. It's simple, it's mostly hidden, and it blends nicely into the design of the barn. So that's my opinion.
I have just one more clarification, Tim, if you would. So there's not going to be a reveal on either side of panels. The panel is going to sit flush to the edge on the dormer.
Not like overhanging, you know, not right at the edge of the shingles, but inside of it. So, I mean, the panels are collectively, the 12 panels are collectively in a rectangular shape. And they fit nicely on this rectangular dormer. The size of the panels fitting exactly to the edge of the roof, that's not the case. The reason we couldn't put panels on the main part of the roof on either side was because I think they need, I think the fire department needs access to be able to climb up on the roof. They can't, I'm not sure what, I think that somebody from Isaacson told me that I think that we couldn't put them there. So what's nice is the simplest, cleanest, south-facing, unobstructed, hottest roof of the barn, of the historic home, of the addition on the historic home, all those variables. This is the no-brainer case of, you know, the where panels might go.
Ironically,
if they
it's
were
a
to
real
go.
benefit to block the sun.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify what the in the photograph, in the representation, it looks like the panel goes pretty close to the edge, and it'd be nice to know kind of specifically how much of the roof reveal would be there. You know, if it's 4 inches, 3 inches, just for documentation sake, I guess.
I'll find out what the actual distance is. I mean, I think it's a question of doing the math. You know, we'll just do the math of this. They've used a drone to size up the, I guess, size up the size of the dormer, and we know the size of, you know, 12 panels, what that size will be. So I'll figure that out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine.
Mary Ann, do you have any feedback?
I do. I'm sort of shocked at my opinion that I would ever suggest that solar panels are appropriate in a historic district being seen from a public way. However, I think that you can even teach an old dog new tricks. I think the sensitivity of the homeowner to the historic house versus what's going on in the world with climate change, etc. I think it does set a good example. And I think the sensitivity, as Catherine brought up, to the view from a public way is really mitigated by the opportunity to set a standard, but a very conservative standard for what, you know, everybody, a lot of people coming before us seem to think precedent. Well, this is as close maybe to precedent as we would get, but it's a very sensitive undertaking. So I'm quite impressed.
And this is the sister of Bridget.
I'm shocked
you.
myself, and I mean, I'm not as conservative as she was. I mean, this is I mean, you know, hope springs eternal, eh?
Thank you very much, Marion.
Did I miss anybody?
Just me this time, Dan.
Sorry, Eric. Ooh, don't know how to do that.
No, I'm passionate about this subject myself. I'm a certified passive house designer. This is sort of the way of the future electrification, at least for the immediate term, until we find a better option. So I think it's coming. The town is committed to make carbon reductions. I think it's the 2040 in Hingham, maybe. I know Boston's 2050 commitments.
2040.
So we're going to see more and more of this, and the thoughtfulness of the way this is done, I think, is completely appropriate, and I think we're gonna have a lot harder conversations on this going forward. I think this one, in my opinion, is an easier one. And I'd encourage everyone to get excited, even though it's a hard thing to get excited about in the historic district. But I like the autonomy of giving the homeowner ability to supplement their own power in this effect as well. So I think we want to encourage it, but in a way that is thoughtful. And I think this is one way that is done very thoughtful. So that's my piece.
Thank you, Eric.
Anybody else? Catherine, Carol?
I'm exactly where Marianne is. I came into this thinking we do not need solar panels in historic districts, but this is so tastefully done. So much thought is going into it. I don't think people will even notice it, to be honest. It's this 2-story, up off the ground building. And I do think we'll get inundated with people who want to do it all over the roof of the house in an old historic district. But we have explained to people in the past that every case is different, and I would think this is wonderful, and I would approve of it.
Great. Anybody
Thank
from the community wish to provide feedback? Okay, I would entertain a motion to issue a certificate of
Mr.
appropriate.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I think Mr. Taylor, did you have your hand up? Kevin Taylor, I thought I saw a hand up.
Hey, Kevin?
No, I did not. I did not have my hand up.
All right, my apologies.
Okay, so with that, I'd entertain a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness if anybody on the commission is so willing.
I'll go ahead and do it then.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness to 54 Middle Street in the Hingham Center Local Historic District to construct a solar panel array on the roof of the barn accessory building. They also presented the main house building, but that we're not approving at this meeting, just to be clear.
Yep.
And with the drawings dated, we have date on these. Looks like today's date, February 15th, 2024. I just wrote that on the cover of the package. I don't know if I see a specific date on the rest of it.
Should we stipulate that it's the south facing part of the barn? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're not approving the north face. Yeah.
Yep, on the south facing dormer.
Not that you would do it, but yeah.
Yeah. South facing
Gotta
dormer
be clear.
presented in the package on the February 15th, 2024.
All right, motion is made. Is there a second?
Second, I would note that I think the date was actually February 1st. That was just a cover page with tonight's. If
Okay,
you look at the
yeah.
next page, I think it's February 1st. The drawings.
Okay, so it's a motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Josh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Steve, how do you vote?
Aye.
Eric, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Catherine, how do you vote? Aye. It's an aye for me, so a certificate of appropriateness is issued for 54 Middle Street.
Thank you very much, everybody.
If you don't mind, if you mind, following up with some photos of the installation with Andrea, I'd be curious to just see it going in, so we have those. It'd just be good to see.
Yep.
All right.
Love to thank the Nashes for bringing a project that the commission can say yes to.
Yeah, that's right. So well done. Very nicely done.
Nice job.
Thank you very much. Thank you for reading the material beforehand too. I appreciate that. And I honestly think that this might be the kind of thing that helps people shape what's possible and what's realistic and have greater respect for the the historic districts that they may be in.
And think about our own houses and what we might do to them to help.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, so next up is our good friend that I think will not see the last of, but we'll be seeing many times more, 224 South Street, Mr. Lynch in the Lincoln Local Historic District to install a patio in the yard to the right of the house and install wood shutters on the existing windows. So, Mr. Lynch, do you need me to share? Are you sharing? How do you want to do this?
Feel free to share.
Okay.
And good to see you all. Thanks for having me. I just want to start by saying I'm actually pretty, I don't know, giddy might be pushing it, but I spend all day helping people plan for solar on their homes. That's my job. And it was really encouraging to hear what just happened. So
Great.
good on you. So yes, so yes, you're welcome. The renovation and restoration at 224 South continues apace. It is gratifying every day to see the progress, I have to say. Incredibly gifted team working 150 miles away from me is not normally what you might expect from a project management standpoint. So big props to Mast Hill. So what we're doing here on these final two steps, really, everything else has been discussed, I think, as it pertains to preservation and the commission, is a faithful recreation of the shutters that existed over the years in the past here at the property. I believe the first shot is 1905 from the Richardson collection. I will start by saying that my plans that we'll get to in a second speak to the creation of 9 sets, so 9 windows being treated. That would include the dormer window that you see for the second floor. By way of completion, my builder and designer went, exact. We will in fact not plan to shutter that just for feasibility. How do you operate them? And there's precious little light on that second floor anyway, so we're going to skip that one. But the rest are going to look the way you see. Of course, tying in with the new color scheme that we researched and that Andrea and I spoke of, that's referenced later in the slides. But anyway, also to note that I will not be doing either side of the front door. I appreciate that they did that then, and I think it sort of takes away from the door, frankly, aesthetically. But yes, so 8 windows total for the property are proposed to be treated with wood southern pine shutters in a color that matches the door and the chimney, as a summary of that part of the request. We can scroll, if you'd like, to the shop drawings from my builder, and we can get into, or rather I can say that I think it was Catherine in the beginning who said there are various pitfalls around what seems like a simple idea in terms of clearances and angles. And I have to admit, being a little bit wiser now about exactly how many dimensions are involved in a proper shutter creation shop drawing. But we have obviously measured thoroughly. And what's interesting, I think, about the windows at 224 South is that except for the basement, they are all identical. They were made, obviously fashioned by hand, but in a production line sense. So he actually had a relatively simple job as we started moving around the house. These are designed to be fully functional. They'll remain open full time, as far as I am concerned. But I do want to be as correct as I can with the way they're built and how they are installed. So not sure what more I could say on this, so I guess I'd rest here.
So just to confirm, these are done, these measurements were finalized, taking into account the window, the trim, so that if these were operable and they closed, they would close centered on the window correctly.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to double check. We had a project that didn't quite do that correctly, and they were mish-sized, so I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Yeah, we
Oh, I
actually,
see you have it here now. Okay, that's right.
yeah, that was the point that well, as actually, that point and the one about how proudly they should sit or not relative to the trim was a big part of the discussion, or my learning at least.
Absolutely. Okay. I think that's a good summary on those. Do you want me to share the slide? You want to go over this with us?
Certainly, I'll describe this. So, I was in contact with, and forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head the name of the department that contacted me about the idea of fill being added and compacted back here. So we're talking about, if you're looking at the house, the right side, you come to the front corner of the home, you walk maybe another 5 or 10 feet, and then the area in question begins and continues to the fence, the 6-foot section of fence, the first bit of fence that you come to from South Street. So to describe what exists there now. So there used to be, I would say in the 1980s, there were a lot of trees on the west side border. And as such, we had the sort of, I don't know, luxury that you might say. We were very casual with where we put our leaves every year. So there's a giant leaf pile there for most of my growing up. And when the trees went away, we decided to become better citizens and handle that more responsibly. Part of the cleanup of the brush and the leaf pile in the side yard was the creation of a pit there. My friend and I dug a great big pit. We put a whole lot of leaves and brush in the ground, covered it over, graded it, put some chairs out, and had a nice little side yard, and came to realize how much we had sort of missed an opportunity to have that place to be. So I'd like to recreate just some simple coffee spot, essentially in the side yard. No grilling or cooking or anything, but just a little place to be. But what remains is an area that's unsuitable for any sort of hardscape. So what I'd like to do is, and to my point about speaking with another department who had concerns about fill, that area being in a flood zone, and questions about the grade and how it is now and how it would be after this proposed project, is simply to say that where the land is now is where the land will be. So the grade will be replicated exactly. It's just that the area underneath needs to be filled and compacted in order to do that. So we're looking at that yellow highlighted area being the essentially the area of the yard that needs that sort of repair, as shown in that cross section. And then off center there would be an area for sitting. That will be a perfect circle, approximately 15 feet in diameter. And I did not share my choice of gravel in there. I can put it in the chat if you'd like, but I do have the name of that material here on my desktop. It is called Rounded Seaside Aggregate Ivory, 3/8 inch. It's almost like you'd see on the beach, I guess. And if I could figure out where the chat is, I would do that.
Unfortunately, we don't have a chat because of the town settings, but
oh, okay, fine.
I think I found what you're talking about.
Mr. Lynch, is this behind the fence at this point? This area you're discussing is behind the fence.
So there are two sections of fence. There's 3-foot fence. Yes, you found it. Thank you. That's the material. 2 sections of fence. So it's not behind the 6-foot. It is in front of the 6-foot. But it's behind the 3-foot, obviously, because that's my property line. So it's
right in here.
Right in there, yeah. I I promise it looks nicer now. But if you go basically from the first corner that you see of the porch to the beginning of the 6-foot fence, that is roughly the area that, well, that's entirely the area that needs to be improved from a soil and compaction standpoint. And it is the area in which the gravel patio is proposed.
Okay. Going around the room, Eric, do you have any comments? Questions?
No, I appreciate again the thoughtfulness on this property. And Mr. Lynch, so no comments. I feel comfortable with both the shutters and the patio. I guess the color, I think it said, is going to match the front door, just to clarify for the.
Correct. Yep. So the color of the front door is called Richardson brick. The body of the house is called pointed fir, which is a deep gray green, and the trim is called Yarmouth oyster, or the Benmore equivalent, which is an ivory. It should be noted that obviously the chimney is as we see it. It was repointed in 2001 by the Ostheimers, so it's not the white painted that you see in the historical photos. So that'll pick up the shutters too, I thought.
Justin, do you have any comments?
I feel like it's an appropriate application. I think it's not that it's our department, but it's that the grade is replicated exactly. Gosh, that sounds even more. So I don't have any concerns to express.
Catherine?
Just a quick question about hardware. I think they're called dogs that would hold the shutters back against the house.
Yes.
Will there be any hardware? And if so, that would need a separate approval, I think, or if there's just going to be like a hook and eye kind of thing behind the shutter to hold it in place.
Yes. So the hardware will be invisible.
Okay.
Sometimes they have larger sort of S's to hold them back, and I just thought that was sort of maybe a lot, you know.
Okay.
They're the hidden ones at the bottom, right? That just grab it. Is that the one you're using?
Hook and eye behind.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
That's it. This all looks good. Thank you for your attention and thoughtfulness. I can't wait to see it all zhuzhed up.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, and we mentioned a cocktail party last time. The wallpaper just got done, and I can't believe it. It's incredible. So you'll all have to come over.
Well, we might hold you to that.
By the patio.
Josh, do you have any comments?
No, I think it's generally appropriate. I would just note that the patio that we're discussing is, is permeable. It's not asphalt. It's not concrete, which I think would change the discussion. My only question was the hardware that I think it's Pentel and Gudgeon. Is that I thought it was going to be custom made? Is that a cast iron, or is that steel, or what's the material?
That'll be cast iron custom. Yep.
Great. Looks like a great project.
Thank you.
Carol?
I think the whole thing looks wonderful. Good planning and, as usual, wonderful eye for detail. It's going to be beautiful.
Right down to the Pentel and Gudgeon.
Absolutely.
Devo, you good?
Yeah, I'll keep the love fest going. I think it's great.
Marianne?
All right. So is this when I hit you all with solar or no?
Don't push it.
Not 2 in one night, no.
Marianne?
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Okay. Anybody from the community wish citizens? There are none left. All right. I'll entertain a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness if anybody wants to make one. Thank you for convincing me to pre-draft our motions again.
I think I can do it. I'd like to issue a certificate of appropriateness
You'd
for
like to make a motion.
Oh, I'd like to make a to issue a certificate of appropriateness for 224 South Street. 8 pairs of traditional cedar wood shutters, hardware to be hidden, and a regrading of the side of the house in front of the 6-foot fence, with a gravel patio area of crushed stone bordered in granite cobblestones.
I don't think they're crushed, are they? I think they're pea stone.
It says crushed stone in the information. It says crushed stone, but I think it looked like little pebbles. I think
New
Pebble.
gravel patio.
new gravel patio.
Cobblestone, yeah.
Cobblestone. And we don't have a picture of the pea stone that you've chosen, the gravel. So maybe that should be part of the packet. I don't see that in here. You did
It's
show
not,
it.
I just shared it, but we can attach that to the application with Andrea.
Yeah. And that's it, right?
All right, is there
Oh,
a,
the paint colors. The paint colors.
Say again, please.
The paint colors as presented. I don't see names of the paint colors. Maybe they need to be.
it's a Richardson brick,
And
shutter color to match new front door, Richardson brick.
the house color and the trim color.
That's all already been decided.
It is, okay. I
Yep.
must.
All right, that's our motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And that, and also note to check the box certificate of appropriateness on the application.
Thank you, Justin. Any other discussion or comments? Great, Eric, how do you vote?
Mr. Chairman, did we ask for any public input?
Yes.
Are there
Okay.
any comments from the public? Oh, Mr. Jacobs.
We're good.
Okay, thank you. Eric, how do you vote?
Aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Josh, how do you vote?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me, so it is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Lynch. See you again soon.
Well, thank you all. It's always a pleasure.
You.
Right.
Good night.
So, on to some housekeeping items. Meeting minutes, will do these one at a time. Here are the meeting minutes from December 14th. These were not approved at our last meeting. Justin had some editorial comments that he shared back. Those have now been incorporated to this version. And I believe my comments have been incorporated. So are there any other questions or comments to the meeting minutes?
Nice job.
Thank you, Robin. If there are no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes of the Historic District Commission meeting of December 14, 2023.
As amended.
As amended.
All right, Eric, how do you vote? Oh, sorry, is there a second? Get ahead of myself.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Eric, how do you vote?
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
I guess it's an aye for me. I don't know why I paused on that. Sorry, it's getting late. So the motion.
Give it a good think.
Meeting minutes are adopted from December 14th, 2023. Let me grab the other ones.
And just so you know, Robin has joined us tonight. She's been
Hey,
watching
Rob.
our meeting. Hi, Robin.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you,
Hello.
Rob.
I bet you're all pooped.
Yeah.
We'll make it.
Here are the meeting minutes from our January 18th meeting. The only thing on this agenda was to continuance of 151 Levitt. So hopefully there are no additional comments. entertain a motion for the meeting minutes from January 18th, 2024.
I'll make that motion also. I'd like to move to approve the minutes of the Historic District Commission meeting of January 18, 2024 as presented.
There a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Am I a voting member on the approval of minutes?
No, that's what I was gonna say. Can I get a second from a
Rescinded.
Right, someone who was there.
I was not there.
So Catherine, I think it's Catherine. Yeah.
Second.
Yay,
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. You were,
you were.
You were, yeah.
we slid you in because there, it was a quick meeting. So sorry, your second is valid.
We'll take his first second.
All right, so motion made by Justin, seconded by Josh. Any discussion? No. All right. Catherine, how do you vote?
Aye.
Justin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Marianne, how do you vote?
Aye.
Josh, how do you vote?
Aye.
And it's an aye for me. Great. So our meeting minutes have been approved. Okay, so that's it. We made it.
Mr. Chairman, before we adjourn, I just wanted to, I don't know how many of you were able to see the National Trust
Materials.
alternative materials. Thank you. I'm like, oh. And so, but I thought it was excellent. Justin, you saw it.
I had trouble getting it. I
So
registered. I
yeah.
didn't it didn't play for me. So I didn't see it. I strove mightily.
I know. And same happened to Josh.
And for me.
Gonna
So
be podcast, is it?
There's a replay of it when the next one's on the 22nd, isn't it?
yes, it is.
I'm gonna try and go and attend.
Yeah, please try and attend because it was really very worthwhile. It was not easy.
Are there any headlines that you can share?
Well, I think there were a number of, in general, just like with the solar panels, the regulations have relaxed somewhat. So it's always repair rather than replace. But they did advocate for other materials in locations, as we've been doing, where there is a danger of moisture. And I think if you look at it's the number 16, I think, is the National Park Service technical brief. It's number 16. So that deals specifically, and that is the updated version that they went over, and I thought it was really good.
Great. With that, motion to adjourn. It's late.
Andrew, one question. You
Yeah.
put in the Historic District Extension report in our packet? Is there any
Oh,
follow-up?
I'm sorry. You know, the only reason I did that was because Tom Patch requested that. He wanted that background for the Hingham Center extension. And so he wanted to have some background reading as to why we proposed that as an historic district. So that was why it was in there. So I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is Daniel saw, we had another application for solar panels for 147 Main Street, which is I think it's the corner of Elm and Main. But
That's 99.
That's what,
99 is the corner of Elm and Main.
99?
Dorothy's house, the big white house on the corner.
Oh, well, it's not white, anymore, but it was. Anyway, it's 147 Main, whatever it is. And so we did, that ended up, we couldn't see them because they're on additions and they were so far back and they were not going to be visible from the public way. So Daniel and I agreed that that was a certificate of non-applicability, just to let you know, but they had it was quite a considerable array, solar panel array.
Justin, isn't that your dad's house? 147?
No, what, that's 121.
Oh, so it's even up further.
So,
Okay, with that, let's all go home. Adjourn.
okay, bye.
So I'll move
Yes.
to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
So roll call though.
Oh, yeah, you have to do.
I'm gonna
roll
look
call.
this up. I don't think that the adjournment has to be roll call. I'm gonna look it up to.
I thought all votes
It
of a
does.
remote meeting
I think
required roll
adjournment does
call.
not. I'm gonna check. But
Okay, well,
Justin,
let's
how
just
do you
do
vote?
it.
That's
Let's do
some
it
pretty
till
fancy
we find out
ruling
otherwise.
Just
conformity.
in
Yeah.
case, let's vote for tonight.
Yeah.
Justin,
Aye.
Eric,
Hi.
Carol,
Aye.
Catherine,
Hi.
Josh, Marianne,
Aye.
Steve.
By the way, guys, it's snowing, in case you haven't looked out the window.
No, I was just out there. I took my dog out. That's why I was missing.
Seal to me.
All right, we are adjourned. I'll see everybody on the 21st
Yes.
of April.
Good night.
Good
all.
night, all.
No, March.